The planet Vorath was a world of endless plains and tall purple grass. The Karathi people lived there for thousands of years. They were tall creatures covered in thick gray fur. Their faces looked like wolves from Earth. They walked on two legs but could run on all four when they needed speed. The Karathi were proud warriors. They valued strength above everything else. The weak were left behind. This was their way since ancient times. The humans had arrived on Vorath only 2 years ago. They came as traders and diplomats. The Karathi did not trust them at first. These strange creatures had no fur. They had no claws. Their teeth were flat and useless for fighting. How could such weak beings survive in the galaxy? The Karathi allowed them to build a small trading post near the capital city, only because they were curious. They wanted to understand how these soft creatures had spread across so many worlds. Marcus Chen was one of the human traders living on the post. He was 34 years old with dark hair and kind eyes. He had been a teacher on Earth before he joined the Galactic Trade Corps. He missed teaching children. He missed helping young minds grow. Life on Vorath was lonely for him. The Karathi did not speak to humans unless they needed something. They looked at humans the way humans looked at insects. There was no hatred in their eyes. There was something worse. There was nothing at all. The day of the long run was the most important festival for the Karathi. Every year the young cubs competed in a race across the Great Plains. The race was 50 kilometers long. It started at sunrise and ended when the sun was high in the sky. The cubs who finished the race earned the right to begin warrior training. The cubs who failed were marked as weak. They would never become true members of the pack. Their families would carry shame for generations. Marcus had received special permission to watch the race. He stood near the final stretch of the track with other human diplomats. Thousands of Karathi filled the viewing platforms around them. The atmosphere was tense and exciting. Parents watched with hope and fear in their yellow eyes. The alpha of all Vorath sat on a raised platform above everyone else. His name was Corax the Unbroken. He was the largest Karathi Marcus had ever seen. His fur was silver with age, but his muscles were still strong. His eyes were sharp and cold. He had ruled the Karathi for 40 years. No one dared to challenge him. The cubs began appearing on the final stretch of the track. They ran in groups of 2 or 3. Some were fast and strong. They crossed the finish line with their heads held high. Their parents howled with pride. Some cubs were slower, but they still finished. They would become warriors too. The crowd cheered for each one who completed the race. The sun was climbing higher. The race was almost over. Marcus noticed a small cub far behind the others. This cub was much smaller than the rest. Its gray fur was matted with sweat and dust. Its legs were shaking with every step. Marcus could see that this cub was using every bit of strength just to stay standing. The other spectators noticed too. Some of them turned away. They did not want to watch what would happen next. The Karathi did not help their weak. To help was to insult. To help was to say that someone could not survive on their own. The small cub stumbled. It fell onto the hard ground of the track. A cloud of dust rose around its body. Marcus heard a sharp cry of pain from somewhere in the crowd. It must have been the cub's mother. The cub tried to stand up, but its legs would not obey. It collapsed again. Its small chest was heaving with exhausted breaths. The crowd was silent. No one moved. This was the way of things. The cub had failed. It would be marked as weak forever. Marcus did not think about what he was doing. His body moved before his mind could stop it. He jumped over the barrier and ran onto the track. He heard gasps from the human diplomats behind him. He heard growls from the Karathi in the crowd. He did not care. All he could see was a child lying in the dirt. All he could think about was helping. He reached the small cub and kneeled beside it. The cub looked up at him with frightened golden eyes. It had never been this close to a human before. Marcus smiled gently. He placed his hand on the cub's head very softly. The fur was surprisingly soft under his palm. "It's okay," Marcus said quietly. He knew the cub probably did not understand his words, but he hoped it could understand his tone. "I'm going to help you. Don't be scared." Marcus slid his arms under the cub's body. The cub was heavy, but Marcus was strong enough. He lifted the small creature against his chest. The cub was too exhausted to resist. It let its head fall against Marcus's shoulder. Marcus could feel its rapid heartbeat slowing down slightly. He began to walk toward the finish line. The crowd exploded with noise. Some Karathi were shouting in anger, "How dare this human interfere with their sacred tradition?" Some were growling deep in their throats. This was an insult to their entire species. The human diplomats were calling for Marcus to stop. They were afraid of what the Karathi would do. But Marcus kept walking. His eyes were fixed on the finish line ahead. The Alpha Corax raised one massive hand. The crowd fell silent immediately. Everyone watched as the human carried the exhausted cub across the dusty track. Marcus's footsteps were the only sound in the whole arena. His heart was pounding, but he did not stop. He would not let this child suffer alone. He did not care what the consequences would be. Marcus crossed the finish line. He stopped and looked around for someone to give the cub to. A female Karathi rushed forward from the crowd. Her eyes were wet with tears that she was trying to hide. She must have been the mother. Marcus carefully transferred the sleeping cub into her arms. The cub whimpered softly but did not wake up. "Your child finished the race," Marcus said. He looked directly into the mother's eyes. "I just helped with the last few steps." The mother stared at him for a long moment. Something changed in her expression. The coldness that all Karathi showed to humans melted away for just a second. She gave him a small nod. Then she turned and disappeared into the crowd with her cub. Guards grabbed Marcus by his arms. They dragged him toward the Alpha's platform. The human diplomats tried to protest, but the guards ignored them. Marcus did not struggle. He had known this might happen. He was ready to face whatever punishment the Karathi would give him. They threw Marcus onto his knees before the Alpha. Corax the Unbroken looked down at him with those cold silver eyes. The Alpha's face showed no emotion. The crowd waited in perfect silence. They all expected the Alpha to order the human's death. This stranger had violated their most sacred tradition. There could be no forgiveness for such an act. "Human," Corax spoke. His voice was deep like thunder rolling across the plains. "Do you understand what you have done?" Marcus lifted his head. He met the Alpha's gaze without fear. "Yes. I helped a child who could not help itself. I would do it again." Whispers spread through the crowd. No one spoke to the Alpha like this. No one showed such fearlessness before his judgment. Corax leaned forward in his throne. His eyes studied the small human kneeling before him. "Your species has no claws," the Alpha said slowly. "You have no fangs. You cannot run fast. You cannot fight well. We have always wondered how you survived, how you built your ships, how you spread across the stars." Marcus stayed silent. He did not know what to say. "Now I understand," Corax continued. "You survived because you refused to leave your weak behind. You carry them when they fall. You fight for them when they cannot fight. This is your strength. This is your weapon." The Alpha stood up from his throne. He was even more massive than Marcus had realized. Corax walked down the steps until he stood directly in front of Marcus. The guards stepped back in surprise. The Alpha never came down from his platform during judgments. "I have ruled my people for 40 years, Corax said. "I have made us strong. But I have also made us cruel. We throw away our weakest children like broken tools. We tell ourselves this makes us powerful. But does it?" He looked out at the crowd. His voice rose so everyone could hear. "I watched this human today. He has no claws. He has no fangs. He is small and soft. but he ran onto that track without fear. He lifted our cub when no karate would dare to do so. He carried that child to the finish line. He looked at me and said he would do it again. Korax turned back to Marcus. Something strange was happening in the Alpha's eyes. Was it respect? Was it admiration? Marcus could not be sure. "Stand up, human." Marcus rose to his feet. His legs were shaking slightly, but he stood tall. "What is your name?" "Marcus Chen." "Marcus Chen," the Alpha repeated. "You have taught my people something today. Strength is not just in our claws and fangs. Strength is also in our hearts. True power is not found in leaving the weak to die. True power is found in lifting them up." The Alpha placed his massive hand on Marcus's shoulder. The weight was heavy, but Marcus did not flinch. "From this day forward," Korax announced to the crowd, "the rules of the long run are changed. Any cub who falls may be helped by their pack members. The race tests endurance, but we are not just runners. We are a pack, and a pack does not abandon its own." The crowd was stunned. No Alpha had ever changed the ancient traditions before, but slowly something began to happen. One Karathi began to howl, then another. Soon the whole arena was filled with the sound. It was not a howl of anger, it was a howl of acceptance, a howl of change. The mother appeared again at the edge of the crowd. She was still holding her sleeping cub. She looked at Marcus with gratitude shining in her golden eyes. Beside her stood other Karathi parents. They were all looking at the human who had changed their world. Marcus Chen walked back to his fellow humans. His diplomatic team surrounded him with worried faces. They told him he was crazy. They told him he could have started a war. But Marcus just smiled. He had done what any good teacher would do. He had helped a child who needed help, and somehow that simple act had changed everything. The Karathi and humans signed their first real alliance treaty 3 months later. Trade increased by 500%. Cultural exchanges began. Young Karathi traveled to human worlds to study. Human teachers came to Vorath to open schools. And every year during the day of the long run, the Karathi told the story of the small human who carried a fallen cub across the finish line. They called him Marcus the Kind Heart. His name became a legend. His simple act of compassion became the foundation of a friendship between two species that would last for centuries. Because sometimes the greatest strength is not in fighting, sometimes the greatest strength is in caring. And the humans had always known this truth. Now the Karathi knew it too.